Hello friends! So this video is a bit different to my usual gameplay videos, the notable exception being my fan art speed paint of Life as a Wolf Quest Wolf. Speaking of, my art style is very different to the one I used in that speed paint, mainly because I had never drawn a wolf before, and since it was fan art I did want it to be quality, so I did trace a reference picture, not someone else's art, don't worry, and used the trace as a sketch. So, basically this is the first episode of my Clangen challenge series, where I draw the cats of my Clangen clan and explain what happened to them during that year. If you haven't read Warrior Cats or know nothing about it, I would highly recommend reading the books. If not, then you'll really be confused. So, Moleclan's backstory. Moleclan, yes, my clan is called Moleclan, if you couldn't tell by the name and thumbnail. But Moleclan was formed by the survivors of Prairie Clan, a clan that lived in Moleclan's plains before a terrible hurricane hit, killing all but 6 of the 20 Prairie Clan members. The 6 survivors were forced underground when the hurricane hit, retreating to an old badger set underneath one of the few trees in their territory. Being only remnants of Prairie Clan and their lives permanently altered by the effects of the hurricane, they decided to form a completely different clan that lived in the old badger set. Why is this clan called Moleclan and not Badger Clan if they live in the badger set? Well, the leader of Moleclan, who we'll get into later, only remembered the badger set because of a molehill that she noticed earlier that day, and mainly because after the hurricane, the clan was much more careful about going above ground, having dug many tunnels that led straight back to camp around the territory in case something else happened, so they could escape to safety if need be, much like mole tunnels. I'm not sure if that's exactly the same as mole tunnels, but they're very similar. Also, my art skills are okay, so apologies if they weren't up to standard, but I hope you guys enjoyed even so. Now then, without further ado, this is Moleclan. Okay, so first up is the Star Clan cats, and first of the Star Clan cats is Moleclan's Star Clan guide, the 31-moon-old Basil Star. Basil Star, formerly Basil Days, died many moons before the hurricane, when Prairie Clan still existed, when he was only 31 moons old. When he was alive, he was constantly visited by cats from the dark forest in his sleep, claiming to be Star Clan, but something was wrong and Basil Star could feel it. When they asked him to train with them, saying that Star Clan had chosen him for greatness, he declined, but the dark forest was persistent. Basil Star spoke with his clanmates about these visits, and the medicine cat proclaimed that they were in fact the dark forest, trying to recruit more cats for their evil schemes. Basil Star felt alienated by this information, feeling as though he was meant for the Dark Forest, yet he kept declining their requests. Eventually, the Dark Forest cats grew tired of trying to persuade him into joining them, and so every night they would attack him, deciding that it would be easier to kill him and drag his spirit into the Dark Forest. Note, the Dark Forest spirits were desperate for more cats, which is why they were trying so hard to take in Basil Star. But Basil Star kept refusing their advances, and soon enough he became leader, but the injuries that he acquired from his nights of being beaten up were beginning to wear him down, and despite all of his efforts, he died from all of the wounds he was dealt in sleep, losing life after life every few mornings. When he lost his final life, Basil Star was about to be guided to Star Clan by Prairie Clan's Star Clan guide when the Dark Forest cats appeared, dragging him into their domain. For countless moons he sat there, starving but unable to die, exhausted but unable to sleep, until one fateful moon, whilst he was gazing at his ragged reflection, it rippled. A light shone at the bottom of the pool, and a quiet, soft voice urgently urged him to dive to the bottom of the pool, since the gateway between Star Clan and the Dark Forest would close soon. Basil Star, although unable to swim, told himself that he had to try, since if he didn't, he would be stuck there either way. He dove in, and a cut dusted in stars helped guide him to the bottom, where he was welcomed into the ranks of StarClan. After many more moons of peace up in the sky, the hurricane struck, and Prairie Clan was no more. Basilstar was distraught, unsure of what to think. The home he lived in was gone, yet he hadn't lived in almost 150 moons. And it became even more of a shock to him when Prairie Clan's StarClan guide came to him, proclaiming in front of their peers that they had been Prairie Clan's guide for hundreds of moons, and now that Prairie Clan was no more, they would appoint a new guide for a new clan, Basilstar. Basilstar was shocked, especially knowing his past, but Prairie Clan's guide reasoned that his past is the reason he is perfect for Moleclan. He was always a good cut, but disaster ruined him, yet he survived and is now happy and thriving in StarClan. The former guide explained that this is exactly what Moleclan must achieve, and who better to guide them than one who already has. So yeah, that's Basilstar. Sorry, and I'm writing the script. It seems a bit long, but I'm happy with this backstory. Now, on to luckily the only cat to die this year, the 12-old moon-old Ravencloud. Ravencloud was sadly killed by a dog on Moon 8 whilst patrolling with Palestripe, who we'll get into later. Ravencloud was a Prairie Clan kid whose parents were killed in the hurricane. When Ravencloud was a kid, she was fearless and actually saw the hurricane as a plaything, wishing to jump into it and fly around, but luckily Moleclan's leader got to her in time. Oh, and another funny thing about Ravencloud, she's tiny. She always was, so it's only by the grace of StarClan that she wasn't picked up by the hurricane like a seed. When the leader didn't allow the kids to leave camp to get some sunlight, Ravenclaw was furious and tried to sneak out a few times, but was scolded heavily by the leader when called. She never understood why Cotton Kid, who we'll get into later, didn't want to go out and play with her. Ravenclaw was mentored by the deputy, but the two never really got along. Ravenclaw always looked up to the leader and wanted to become one someday, but sadly she was killed the very moon she graduated. I hope that she'll be able to give her life to the next leader. Honestly, when I was playing, I didn't see her as much of a special cat, but I really miss my little fur ball of chaos, and I hope that she'll visit other cats in their dreams next year. Now, onto the living cats. First up is the 120-moon-old leader Daisy Star and her mate and deputy Shadowbee. Daisy Star, formerly Daisy Hart, was the deputy of Prairie Clan and the one to lead Moleclan to safety when the hurricane struck. Daisy Star, determined to make sure that Moleclan survived, ordered for tunnels to be dug all around the territory, which is how the clan often travels. Daisy Star refuses to let nature destroy Moleclan, not after seeing what it did first pull. She even tells the younger cats gruesome stories of the hurricane to try and scare them away from possible danger. In her head, she'll do whatever it takes to make sure that something like the hurricane never happens again. After Shadowbee selflessly led a dog away from Moleclan's borders, Daisy Star began to admire her for her courage and loyalty, and the two soon fell into a romance and became mates during Greenleaf. When the dog killed Ravenclaw, Daisy Star was furious with the dog for taking one of her clanmates, and furious with herself for letting it happen. Being as vengeful as she is, Daisy Star went out to kill the dog, but didn't allow anybody to accompany her, not wanting to lose any more clanmates. She managed to do a lot of damage to the dog, but it was too big and strong, breaking one of her bones. With many injuries at the time and so little herbs, the bone soon became infected and Daisy Star lost one of her lives to it, now down to 8. And even after one of her warriors came to her, saying that he had spotted 2 legs out looking for the dog, Daisy Star ordered everyone to kill it if they found it, as long as their patrol was big enough. And to top everything off, Moleclan declared war with SnakeClan on Moon 10, making Daisy Star far more aggressive and protective than normal, especially since Shadowbee is currently wounded, even if it's only minor and won't kill her under any circumstances. So yeah, that's Daisy Star. I hope things get better for her next year, and I'm excited to see if Maybe her and Shadowbee could adopt some little kits at some point in the future too. Next up is the 130-moon-old deputy, Shadowbee. Shadowbee always wanted to become deputy when she was younger, and tried so hard to prove that she was worth the position, but everyone always turned a blind eye. Eventually she gave up, deciding to blend in with shattered dreams and a broken heart. But when the hurricane hit and Moleclan's former deputy, Daisy Star, recognized her potential, appointing her as deputy, and her dream flew back to life. I'm sorry, that doesn't actually make sense. I'm reading a script. I was so excited to write it down, so it doesn't make sense, but you guys get what I mean, hopefully? Okay. And her dream flew back to life, vowing to herself that she would serve Moleclan better than anyone. And after risking her life twice by leading a dog away from the territory and barely escaping, and fighting an enemy warrior who had crossed the border alone, she felt that she had done her younger self proud. So when she became a senior, although still deputy, her softer side came out, even if she's still that girl boss we all know and love. Currently, she's in the medicine den because of a sprain, and appreciates Daisy Star coming in to check on her regularly, even if it's rather unnecessary. So yeah, that's Shadowbee. Other than the sprain, she's had a relatively good year, apart from the constantly squabbling with her former apprentice Ravencloud. Next up is the 63-moon-old medicine cat, Flowercatcher. Flowercatcher, unlike the rest of Moleclan, was never actually a member of Prairie Clan. She was one of Scorch Clan's many medicine cats, but when news of Prairie Clan's destruction and Moleclan's creation reached Scorch Clan, Flowercatcher volunteered to join Moleclan. Moleclan was very grateful for this, and the two clans have a good relationship. After one of the warriors, Palestripe, shared the contents of his strange dream with her, the two became rather close, and though they had seen each other at gatherings, they had never really talked until now. One night, Flowercatcher even discovered flowers in her nest with the scent of Palestripe all over them. The two grew a romantic interest in each other, but it never really grew until the end of the year when they decided to become mates in secret. I'm not sure whether I'd like them to have kids or not, since it could reveal their relationship, though. Flowercatcher grew very close with Ravencloud, and it was crushing when she died, unable to work in her mourning. But it was terrible timing, since almost the whole clan began to grow ill or receive injuries. But Flowercatcher couldn't do it. She was too distracted, too mournful. That was until Ravenclaw visited her in a dream, telling her that Moleclan needed her, and although it's hard, Flowercatcher needed to put Ravenclaw's death behind her. Comforted by these words and feeling reassured that Ravenclaw was watching over her, Flowercatcher was able to work again, healing almost everyone. So yeah, that's Flowercatcher. I think she's really pretty, but what do you guys think? Next up is our oldest warrior, the 40-moon-old Palestripe. Palestripe was happy and cheerful, living his best life with his 3 brothers. They were inseparable. That was until the hurricane hit and they were all ripped from him before his very eyes. His heart was broken and life ruined by not being able to see his beloved brothers again, but he found what little joy he could in playing with the clan's kids and training his former apprentice Bluepaw, now Blue Cinder. He especially began to feel happier when he spent time with Flowercatcher, and even pretended to be sick sometimes to spend more time with her. That was until the beginning of Ravenclaw's demise, when Palestripe and Blue Cinder spotted a large dog in the territory and attempted to lead it away, but it spotted them and they accidentally led it further into Moleclan territory. A few moons afterwards, Palestripe went on a patrol with Ravenclaw when they spotted the very same large dog that he and Blue Cinder had found a while ago. They attempted to lead it away again, but with Ravenclaw being so small and only a new warrior, she was killed, whilst Palestripe was forced to run for his life. After that, Palestripe felt constantly gloomy again, feeling at fault for her death. He perked up a little when he became mates with Flowercatcher, but I think it'll be a while until he stops being gloomy. No, the reason he's kind of smiling is because he's with Flower Catcher, because he's usually gloomy. So that's it basically for Pale Stripe. I think that's all the important stuff that happened. Anyways, on to the next cat, the 23-moon-old Blue Cinder. Blue Cinder was born from an affair that his mother had, and once his family found out, it went into chaos, breaking his family apart. He was almost blamed for this, always hated despite him doing nothing wrong. Blue Cinder, being treated in this way, felt that he had to prove himself, that he would become a great warrior, and his family should beg for his forgiveness. When training, he always unsheathed his claws, trying to prove that he was not to be messed with. He was just as experienced as a warrior soon before the hurricane came, when he was only 9 moons old. But the Prairie Clan leader refused to make him a warrior, firstly because he was only 9 moons old, and secondly because he needed to learn some compassion. Honestly, I agree with them on that one, although as someone who has experienced trauma, not from my family, don't worry, it's not that easy. Prairie Clan leader, you can't just learn, but whatever. Alright, where was I? Okay. Blue Cinder, on the other hand, did not, and he was enraged. After the hurricane hit, Blue Cinder wasn't that bothered, since his family hated him. He was actually happy that they were finally gone. But although he was well treated and respected in Moleclan, the scars of trauma never faded. The bloodthirsty apprentice became a cold and reserved, but loyal to his clan. I don't think he'll ever become empathetic, but he is certainly not evil. Again, as someone with trauma. Again, don't worry, not from my family. I really understand how bad it affected him. And I actually kind of ship him and the next warrior that we'll get into in just a second. But we'll have to wait and see if the game agrees. And finally, yes I know it's currently a very small clan, hopefully we will get more cuts next year, is the 15-moon-old Cotton Dapple. Cotton Dapple was always extremely skittish as a kid, but especially so after the hurricane hit. It impacted her permanently, meaning she became grumpy and snappy when she became a warrior. As a kid, she refused to leave the nursery out of fear that she would get swept up at any moment, despite being underground. Kindly, Pale Stripe, the one who saved her, played with her often and brought her fresh kill and mothballs. She never understood how Raven Kit could still be so adventurous, and always refused to play her games, too scared of what might happen. She was petrified, and it didn't help that there was a completely new cat in the clan, Flower Catcher, who to this day she still doesn't like. She was mentored by Daisy Star, and the two were close during her apprenticeship, being able to discuss her nightmares with Daisy Star, but once she became a warrior, she began to really dislike her. She's currently in the medicine den because of a bite wound she got from a young fox while fighting over a small deer carcass. So yeah, that's year 1 for Moleclan. I hope you liked it, and if you have any suggestions, please do leave them in the comments. If you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Also, I am recording this at midnight, which is why I might not sound 100%. I usually don't stay up this late, actually. I usually go to sleep at 10 o'clock. Anyways, bye-bye!